So President Yoon Suk Yeol rounded off his Peru state visit with a bundle of agreements and deals that will further scale up Seoul-Lima collaboration. Let's recap his Peru state visit with Professor Mason Richey. Good morning, Professor Richey.
Good morning.
So President Yoon's state visit to Peru marked the first visit by a South Korean leader to the country in 9 years, and it's also Yoon's first trip to South America since taking office. The question is, why and how is his visit to Peru so timely, and if so, in what way?
Yeah, so, the timely part of this, you can answer in two ways. What's going on in the world, and also, why Peru, why now, or why South America, why now? And, the short answer to that is APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, multilateral, and then the G20, which is going on in Brazil. So that's sort of the opportunity. And with these sorts of meetings, leaders that attend them always hold bilaterals on the side. And in the case of Yoon, of course, also the trilateral with the U.S. and Japan. South America is, not something or not a place that, we usually associate very much with South Korean foreign policy. But Peru, at least, is a comprehensive strategic partner for South Korea. In fact, the only one in South America. And attending APEC and attending the G20 and going to Peru and showing attention to Peru and to Brazil and to the other countries in South America, of course, reinforces the Yoon administration's emphasis on South Korea being a global pivotal state. So I think that's one part of the answer. The other part of the answer is, what's significant about this. The world obviously has a lot of challenges in front of it right now. Mm-hmm. Whether that be uncertainty in the Russia-Ukraine war, war in the Middle East, the fallout from the U.S. election, and a lot of other issues. And so this is, of course, a place where you have a bunch of leaders of important countries gathered together, and Yoon is able to meet with them bilaterally in the case of Boluarte from Peru, obviously, or Xi Jinping from China, but also trilaterally with the United States. And Japan, where they made an announcement about the establishment of the trilateral cooperation secretariat that they're going to set up. So, it's sort of typical multilateral diplomacy folded into bilateral relations as well.
Let's talk about what Yoon got out of his Peru state visit then. The leaders of Seoul and Lima, they agreed to further tighten economic ties, particularly in critical minerals. Why is their cooperation in this field so critical then?
Yeah, so, minerals are an important input for a lot of the fourth industrial revolution economy. Batteries and robotics and, all of these sorts of new technologies that are emerging and technologies that are connected with green growth and that sort of thing. And of course, Peru, like a number of South American countries, is an important producer of these, or at the very least has significant mining capacity in these areas, even if it's not yet totally online in some cases. And in Peru's case, for instance, it produces copper, selenium, silver, zinc, iron, a number of important raw minerals. And what of course has changed enormously in terms of the economics of minerals over the last 10 years or so is that a lot of the, for lack of a better term, Western world or liberal world, if you want to look at it this way, has put economic security very high on the list of priorities. And that means finding new supply chains, including for minerals, notably with the intent in some way of de-risking from over-reliance on China in this area, where China is a major player, of course. And that's really only going to get more important, it would seem, with the Trump administration coming in and looking to to take a somewhat more modest de-risking policy that, for instance, the U.S. and Europe and South Korea and Japan and other countries were taking vis-a-vis China in these areas, and perhaps moving towards a more comprehensive decoupling. So finding alternate sources for these minerals to flow into sort of separated supply chains is an important priority for countries in the quote-unquote liberal or Western world.
Definitely. Then what about agreements on infrastructure? I mean, how is their pledge to work together to successfully complete the construction of the, Chinchero Airport noteworthy?
Well, for the vast majority of the world, it's not noteworthy, to be bluntly honest with you. But, it's important for Peru because that airport is supposed to be the gateway to Machu Picchu, which is, the most important, or at least the most famous tourist site in Peru, UNESCO World Heritage Site, et cetera, et cetera. And for Korea, it matters, at least in some specialist circles, on trade and infrastructure, in the sense that the Korea Airport Corporation, along with Hyundai Heavy Construction, which was the contractor for this airport, are leading a consortium to build and manage this airport. And there were some problems with liquidity that led to some delays. Those liquidity issues were connected apparently to inflation and some other issues, and apparently there even resulted in some international litigation regarding who was going to pick up some of these extra costs. And with these types of large infrastructure projects, these types of delays are relatively common. But Korea, in part, bases its ability to get these types of projects over competitors from the U.S. or Europe or China or Japan or other places, because Korea has an image of largely being on time and on budget and reasonably priced for these types of projects. And so if it's delayed, that obviously scratches a little bit that image in that regard.
Maybe it's a much-needed deal more for Peru. Now, before I let you go, Professor Richey, Yoon Bolart slammed North Korea's nuclear and missile activities. Now, the question is, how can Peru play a role in keeping peace on the Korean Peninsula?
It can't, really, to be bluntly honest with you. Keeping peace on the Korean Peninsula is largely the job of South Korea and the United States through their alliance. What, of course, is important is that Peru can help or be just one more country providing a united diplomatic front in multilateral organizations, whether that be APEC or the United Nations, that calls out bad North Korean behavior, malign North Korean behavior, whether that be illegal arms and transfers or illegal financial activity, cyber security violations, all of the things that North Korea does in order to, finance its weapons programs and finance its regime. Obviously, it's another diplomatic, another country with a diplomatic profile that can call out North Korea for its human rights violations. So diplomatically, Peru can help play a role as a strategic partner of South Korea, in being one more brick in this international wall that pushes back against North Korea's malign behavior. One would also point out that, in a place like South America, where perhaps North Korea has, ongoing illicit activities underneath the radar, to the extent that Peru, might have some intelligence insight into those types of activities through its relationship with other states there. It can also be a conduit for information flowing back to Seoul or to Washington or the United Nations for some of the things that North Korea is doing under the radar, economically or otherwise, in order to keep its regime afloat in violation of international sanctions.
Indeed. All right. Professor Richey, thanks so much for sharing your insight with us this morning. You have a wonderful day.
Great. Thanks. You too.